The maintenance bay on the lower decks of Arcturus 7 station smelled like oil and burned metal. Tae-Yang wiped his hands on his already dirty work clothes and looked at the broken cooling system in front of him. It was his third repair job of the day, and the station's artificial sun was making everything hot and uncomfortable. He was almost done when his communication device beeped loudly. The voice on the other end sounded worried and urgent. Tae-Yang, we need you on the diplomatic level right now. Emergency situation. A creature is dying and nobody can fix it. Tae-Yang grabbed his tool bag and ran toward the elevator. The diplomatic level was 20 floors above him, in the fancy part of the station where important aliens had their meetings. He never went up there. Humans were still new to the galactic community, and most aliens looked at them like they were children who did not understand how the universe really worked. When the elevator doors opened, Tae-Yang saw chaos. Security guards were standing in a wide circle around something big and dark that was thrashing on the floor. Alien diplomats were watching from a safe distance, their faces showing different kinds of fear and curiosity. In the center of everything stood Queen Velrisa. She was a draconid, which meant she looked like a giant reptile that walked on two legs. Her scales were deep purple and gold, and her eyes were cold and angry. She wore expensive robes that marked her as royalty, and everyone around her seemed scared of her. The thing on the floor was massive. It looked like a wolf, but it was much bigger than any wolf from Earth. Its fur was completely black like the night sky, and even though it was clearly sick and in pain, Tae-Yang could see how dangerous it was. The creature had metal and wires attached to its head, connected to some kind of implant behind its ears. The implant was sparking and smoking. "Your Majesty, we must put the creature down," one of the draconid guards said. "It is suffering and could become violent." "No." Queen Velrisa's voice was sharp and full of rage. "That beast cost more than this entire station. It is the finest product of our military program. I will not lose it because of a simple malfunction." One of the station officials noticed Tae-Yang standing there with his tool bag. "The human mechanic is here, Your Majesty. He has fixed impossible things before. Perhaps he can help." The queen turned her cold eyes toward Tae-Yang. She looked at him like he was an insect. "A human? You want a primitive human to touch my void wolf? They barely understand their own technology, much less draconid bioengineering." Tae-Yang stepped forward anyway. He had learned that most aliens thought humans were weak or stupid, but he also learned that actions spoke louder than words. "I can try to help," he said simply, "but I need everyone to step back and give me space." "Absolutely not," the queen said. "I will not allow—" The wolf creature made a horrible sound, something between a howl and a scream. Its whole body went stiff, and smoke started rising from the implant. The guards backed away even more. Tae-Yang did not wait for permission. He walked straight toward the suffering animal. His heart was beating fast, but he kept his face calm. He had learned that animals could sense fear. "Stop!" the queen shouted, but Tae-Yang ignored her. He knelt down next to the wolf's head, careful to stay away from its teeth. The creature's eyes were rolling back, showing white. Its breathing was fast and shallow. Tae-Yang opened his tool bag and pulled out a scanner. He ran it over the implant and saw the problem immediately. The biocybernetic implant was overheating and sending too much electricity into the wolf's brain. It was like the creature was being shocked over and over again. Tae-Yang had seen similar problems in mining robots that had bad wiring. "The neural interface is burning out," Tae-Yang said quietly. He pulled out a small cutting tool. "I need to disconnect it before it causes permanent brain damage." "If you damage my void wolf, I will have you executed," Queen Velrisa said, but her voice was less certain now. She was watching her valuable creature die, and she had no other options. Tae-Yang carefully cut away the outer casing of the implant. His hands were steady even though everyone was watching him. Inside, he found a mess of melted wires and overloaded circuits. He recognized some of the components. They were similar to things he had worked with before. He started disconnecting wires one by one, rerouting the electrical flow away from the damaged sections. The wolf's body slowly stopped shaking. Its breathing became slower and more regular. "Easy there," Tae-Yang whispered to the creature. "I know it hurts. I'm going to make it stop hurting." Something strange happened then. The wolf's eyes focused on Tae-Yang's face. Those eyes were amber-colored like golden fire, and they were intelligent. This was not just an animal. This was something more. Tae-Yang kept working, talking softly the whole time. "That's it. Just stay calm. Almost done now. He found the main power connector that was causing all the problems. It was designed wrong, pushing too much energy through circuits that could not handle it. Whoever made this implant had cared more about control than about the creature's comfort. With one final adjustment, Taeyang bypassed the damaged connector and created a new pathway for the neural signals. The smoking stopped. The sparking stopped. The wolf's whole body relaxed. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then the wolf lifted its massive head and looked directly at Taeyang. The creature's eyes were clear now, free from pain. It sniffed the air near Taeyang's face, then made a soft sound, almost like a dog greeting its owner. "Okay, it's stable now," Taeyang said, standing up slowly. "But this implant is badly designed. It's going to fail again if you keep using it like this." Queen Velrisa stared at her void wolf. The creature was sitting up now, but it was not looking at the queen. It was looking at Taeyang, watching his every movement. "Kang, come here," the queen commanded in her own language. The wolf did not move. It stayed next to Taeyang. "Kang, I command you to return to your handler." Still nothing. The wolf Kang just sat there looking at the human who had stopped its pain. One of the Draconid handlers tried to approach with a control device, something that probably sent signals to the wolf's implant. Kang made a deep growling sound and the handler froze. But when Taeyang reached out his hand, moving slowly and carefully, Kang pressed its huge head against his palm. The creature was showing submission, but not the forced kind that came from fear or pain. This was trust. The queen's face showed something Taeyang had never seen before on a Draconid. She was shocked and humiliated. Her perfect killing machine, her expensive war beast that was supposed to obey only Draconid royalty, was acting like a pet dog with a human mechanic. "This is impossible," she whispered. "The genetic encoding? The loyalty programming. It should only respond to Draconid biosignatures." Taeyang did not understand all the technical words, but he understood what was happening. He had shown kindness to a creature that had only known pain, and that creature remembered. "I just fixed the implant," Taeyang said honestly. "I didn't do anything special." But everyone watching knew that something special had definitely happened. A human had just created a bond with one of the most dangerous creatures in the known galaxy. And he did it not with technology or force, but with simple compassion. The queen's eyes narrowed as she looked at Taeyang. He could see her mind working, calculating, planning. This human had just embarrassed her in front of dozens of diplomatic witnesses. That was something she would not forget or forgive. "This is not over," Queen Velrisa said coldly. "That creature belongs to me and I will have it back." Taeyang looked at Kang, who was still leaning against him like they were old friends. "I think that's up to him," he said quietly. The queen turned and walked away, her guards following behind her. But Taeyang noticed something. She kept looking back at her void wolf, and her face showed something new mixed with her anger. It showed fear. Not fear of the wolf, but fear of what this moment meant. If a simple human could earn the loyalty of a Draconid war beast, what did that say about the Draconid Empire and all their advanced technology? What did it say about all the other species who thought humans were weak and unimportant? Taeyang gathered his tools, and Kang followed him like a shadow. The station officials did not try to stop them. Nobody knew what to do in a situation like this. As they walked toward the elevator together, Taeyang realized his quiet life as a mechanic had just ended. Something big had started, and he was right in the middle of it whether he wanted to be or not. Kang made a soft huffing sound, almost like the creature was trying to communicate. Taeyang reached down and patted the massive wolf's head. "Yeah, buddy," he said. "I think we both just got into a lot of trouble." 3 days passed since Taeyang fixed the Void Wolf, and life on Arcturus 7 station became very complicated. Kang refused to leave his side. The massive creature followed him everywhere, sleeping outside his quarters at night and watching him work during the day. Other mechanics and workers gave them both plenty of space. News traveled fast in the station. Everyone was talking about how a human mechanic had tamed the Draconid Queen's war beast. Some aliens thought it was funny. Others thought it was impressive. A few thought it was dangerous. Queen Velrisa thought it was unacceptable. On the morning of the 4th day, Taeyang was working on a broken water filtration system when his friend Jiwoo came running into the maintenance bay. She was a xenobiologist, which meant she studied alien life forms. She was breathing hard like she had been running. "Taeyang, you need to see this," she said, pulling out her data pad. "It's everywhere on the galactic news networks." The screen showed a news broadcast. The headline read, "Human steals Draconid war beast, diplomatic crisis brewing." There was video footage of Tai Yang kneeling next to Kang, the moment when the wolf had first shown him trust. "I didn't steal anything," Tai Yang said, feeling frustrated. "I just helped him when he was hurt." "I know that and you know that," Jiwoo replied. "But the Queen is telling everyone you used some kind of human trick to take control of her property. She's demanding that the station authorities force you to give Kang back." Kang, who was lying nearby, lifted his head at the sound of his name. His amber eyes looked alert and intelligent. "The station council wants to meet with you this afternoon," Jiwoo continued. "The Queen will be there too." "This is serious, Taeyang." Later that day, Taeyang found himself in a large meeting room with 24 different aliens sitting around a circular table. Queen Velrisa sat directly across from him, her purple and gold scales gleaming under the lights. She looked at him with pure hatred. Kang sat next to Taeyang's chair, calm, but ready to protect him if needed. "This meeting will come to order," said the station administrator, a tall alien with gray skin and 4 arms. "We are here to resolve the matter of the Void Wolf designated as Kang. Queen Velrisa, please state your position." The Queen stood up and her voice filled the room. "The situation is simple. That creature belongs to the Draconid Empire. It represents billions of credits in research and development. It is military property and this human has stolen it." "I didn't steal him," Taeyang said quietly. "I fixed his broken implant. That's all." "You did something to make it obey you," the Queen accused. "Void wolves are genetically programmed to bond only with Draconid royalty. It is impossible for a human to command one unless you use some kind of chemical or technology to alter its mind." "I didn't use anything except basic repair tools," Taeyang replied. He felt his own anger starting to build. "Maybe Kang chose to stay with me because I treated him like a living being instead of a weapon." The Queen's eyes flashed with rage. "How dare you lecture me about my own military program? Humans have been in space for barely 100 years. You know nothing about bioengineering or genetic programming." "I know that when something is in pain, you help it," Taeyang said. "That's not complicated." One of the council members, an insect-like alien, spoke up. "Perhaps we should examine the Void Wolf's implant. If the human damaged it during his repairs, that might explain the behavioral change." Jiwoo stood up from where she had been sitting in the visitor section. "Excuse me, but I've been studying this situation. May I speak?" The administrator gestured for her to approach. Jiwoo walked to the center of the room carrying her research pad. "I'm a xenobiologist and I've been observing Kang for the past 3 days," she said. "I also managed to access some public records about the Void Wolf program. What I found is disturbing." She projected images onto the wall screen. They showed technical diagrams of the neural implants used in Void Wolves. "These implants don't just control the wolves," Jiwoo explained. "They cause constant low-level pain. The pain makes the wolves aggressive and easier to direct in combat. It's essentially a torture device." The room went silent. Several council members looked shocked. The Queen's face showed no emotion at all. "That is classified military information," Queen Velrisa said coldly. "How did you access it?" "It's in a public research database," Jiwoo replied. "Your own scientists published papers about it years ago. They were proud of the design." "The pain response is necessary for proper function," the Queen said. "These are war beasts, not pets. They need to be aggressive." "But Taeyang removed that pain," Jiwoo continued. "He fixed the implant so it no longer hurts Kang. And look at the result. Kang is calmer, more intelligent, and he formed a natural bond with the person who helped him. This suggests that the pain was never necessary at all." Taeyang looked at Kang with new understanding. The wolf had been hurting all the time, every moment of every day, and nobody cared. No wonder he responded to someone who finally made the pain stop. "This is irrelevant," the Queen said, but her voice was less confident now. "The Void Wolf is still property of the Draconid Empire, and I demand its return." "With respect, Your Majesty," the administrator said carefully, "the Council must consider all factors. If the human's repairs improve the creature's condition, and if the creature now refuses to obey Draconid commands, forcing it back into your custody might be seen as cruel." "Cruel?" The Queen's voice rose. "Since when does the galaxy care about cruelty to military equipment?" "Since that equipment started showing signs of being sentient," another council member said. "If these Void Wolves are intelligent enough to choose their companions, they might have rights under galactic law." The queen looked like she wanted to destroy something. Her carefully built reputation was crumbling in front of dozens of witnesses. The Draconid Empire prided itself on being advanced and superior to other species. But now everyone was learning that their famous war beasts were just tortured animals. "I offer the human 1 million galactic credits for the return of my property," the queen said. "That is more money than he could earn in 10 lifetimes. Taeyang shook his head. "Kang isn't mine to sell. He's his own person." "It is an animal," the queen shouted, losing her composure. "A genetically engineered weapon. It has no more rights than a combat drone. Then why are you so angry that he chose to leave you?" Taeyang asked calmly. The question hung in the air. Everyone in the room understood what Taeyang was really asking. If Kang was just a mindless weapon, why did it matter who he stayed with? But if Kang could make choices, could feel loyalty and trust, then he was more than just property. The queen's hands were shaking with rage. "This is an insult to the Draconid Empire. I will not forget this humiliation." She stood up and pointed at Taeyang. "I formally challenge you to a trial of dominance, as is my right under ancient galactic law. Winner takes complete ownership of the contested property." The room erupted in shocked voices. The trial of dominance was an old tradition, rarely used anymore. It was a legal form of combat to settle disputes over valuable property. "Your Majesty, that is extreme," the administrator said. "Perhaps we can negotiate." "I have made my challenge," the queen interrupted. "The human can accept and fight for the creature, or he can surrender it now and avoid bloodshed." Taeyang felt his heart pounding. He was not a fighter. He was a mechanic who fixed broken things. But when he looked at Kang, he saw trust in those amber eyes. The wolf had chosen him because he showed kindness when everyone else showed cruelty. "What are the rules?" Taeyang asked. "Taeyang, no," Jiwoo said urgently. "She has trained warriors." "You'll be killed!" "The rules are simple," the queen said with a cruel smile. "Each side can use any champions they choose. Combat continues until one side surrenders or cannot fight. The winner takes the Void Wolf and the loser accepts the judgment without argument." "And if I win," Taeyang said slowly, "you agree that Kang is a free being who can choose where he wants to live?" The queen's smile grew wider. She thought she had already won. "Yes. If you somehow manage to defeat my warriors, I will acknowledge your claim. But when I win, the creature returns to Draconid control, and you will spend time in prison for theft." "Then I accept," Taeyang said. The room exploded with noise again. Jiwoo looked like she wanted to hit him. The council members were arguing with each other, but the queen looked satisfied. "The trial will be held in 5 days," the administrator announced. "Both sides will have time to prepare. This meeting is concluded." As everyone left the room, Jiwoo grabbed Taeyang's arm. "What were you thinking?" "You're going to get yourself killed." "I couldn't let her take him back," Taeyang said quietly. "Not after learning what they do to these wolves. The constant pain, the torture. It's wrong, Jiwoo." Kang pressed against Taeyang's leg, making a soft sound. The wolf understood that something important had just happened. "We need a plan," Jiwoo said, her face determined. "If you're going to do this crazy thing, we need to give you a chance to survive it." That night, Taeyang sat in his quarters with Kang lying beside him. He had accepted a challenge from one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. She had armies and weapons and trained soldiers. He had a tool bag and a wolf who trusted him. The day after Taeyang accepted the queen's challenge, Jiwoo burst into his workshop with news that changed everything. "The Galactic Council is investigating the Void Wolf program," she said, excitement in her voice. "My report about the pain implants got their attention. They're sending inspectors to the Draconid military facility on the moon Drakkar 5. Taeyang looked up from the power converter he was repairing. "That's good, right?" "It's more than good," Jiwoo replied. "And they want you to go with them. They need someone who understands the implants and can potentially repair them." The queen tried to block it, but the council overruled her. 3 days later, Taeyang found himself on a transport ship heading to Drakkar 5, accompanied by council inspectors and medical staff. Kang came too, refusing to leave his side. The queen had sent angry messages, but galactic law gave the council authority to investigate potential rights violations. When they arrived at the military facility, Taeyang saw a huge complex built into the side of a mountain. Everything was gray metal and sharp angles designed to look intimidating. Draconid soldiers watched them with suspicious eyes as they entered. A Draconid handler named Hyun-Soo met them at the entrance. He was younger than most of the other handlers, and his eyes showed something different. While the others looked angry about the inspection, Hyun-Soo looked almost relieved. "This way," he said quietly. "The wolves are kept in the lower levels." As they walked through cold corridors, Tae-Yang started hearing sounds. Howls, whimpers, and growls echoed off the metal walls. Kang's ears went flat against his head, and he moved closer to Tae-Yang. "How many wolves are here?" Ji-Woo asked. 43, Hyun-Soo replied. "But several are dying. The implants are failing, just like what happened to Kang." They reached a massive chamber filled with cages. What Tae-Yang saw made him feel sick. Dozens of void wolves, all as large and powerful as Kang, were locked in small spaces. Many had damaged implants that sparked and smoked. The wolves were clearly in pain, some lying still, others thrashing against their cages. "This is horrible," one of the council inspectors said, her voice shaking. "How long have they been like this?" "Some for weeks," Hyun-Soo admitted. "We reported the implant failures, but the Queen said new parts were too expensive. She ordered us to increase the pain settings to keep them under control." Tae-Yang walked to the nearest cage. Inside was a wolf with dark gray fur, smaller than Kang but still massive. The creature's implant was burning its skin, leaving raw wounds. The wolf looked at him with eyes full of suffering. "Open the cages," Tae-Yang said. "That's dangerous," one of the Draconid officers protested. "These are war beasts. They'll attack." "They're in too much pain to attack anyone," Tae-Yang replied. "And I'm going to fix them." The council inspector nodded. "Open the cages." "That's an order." What happened over the next hours was something nobody expected. As each cage opened, Tae-Yang approached the suffering wolves calmly, speaking softly like he had with Kang. He explained what he was doing as he worked on their implants, removing the components that caused pain, repairing damaged circuits, and rerouting the neural pathways. The first wolf he helped was the gray one. As soon as Tae-Yang finished the repairs, the creature's whole body relaxed. The pain that had been constant for weeks was finally gone. The wolf sniffed Tae-Yang's hands and made a soft whining sound, almost like it was saying thank you. Kang watched everything, sitting patiently nearby. When other wolves became nervous or scared, Kang would make low rumbling sounds that seemed to calm them down. He was communicating with them, Tae-Yang realized. Kang was telling the others that Tae-Yang could be trusted. "This is amazing," Ji-Woo said, recording everything on her datapad. "Look at their behavior. As soon as the pain stops, they become completely different." She was right. The wolves that Tae-Yang repaired did not act like mindless weapons. They showed curiosity, intelligence, and even playfulness. One black and white wolf started carefully exploring the room, sniffing at equipment with obvious interest. Another one, brown with amber markings, began grooming itself, finally able to focus on something other than pain. Hyun-Soo watched everything with tears in his eyes. "I always knew something was wrong," he said to Tae-Yang. "I became a handler because I love animals. But this program, it's torture. I wanted to speak up, but the Queen would have had me executed for disloyalty." "You're speaking up now," Tae-Yang replied. "That takes courage." By the end of the first day, Tae-Yang had repaired 15 wolves. By the end of the second day, 29. The work was exhausting, and his hands cramped from holding tiny tools for hours, but he could not stop. Every time he saw a wolf's eyes clear as the pain ended, he found the energy to continue. Something else began happening that nobody predicted. The repaired wolves started following Tae-Yang around the facility. They did not obey commands from Draconid handlers anymore. Instead, they watched Tae-Yang, waiting to see what he would do next. "They're forming a pack structure," Ji-Woo explained to the council inspectors. "In nature, wolves follow leaders who provide protection and resources." Tae-Yang removed their pain and showed them kindness. To them, he's the pack leader. On the third day, Queen Velrisa arrived at the facility, her face twisted with rage. She found Tae-Yang in the main chamber, surrounded by 37 healthy void wolves. They were sitting calmly, no longer in pain, no longer aggressive. They looked like what they really were, intelligent creatures who had been abused and were now free. "What have you done?" the Queen hissed. "You've destroyed millions of credits worth of military assets." "I fixed them," Tae-Yang said simply. "They're not broken anymore. They were weapons. Now they're useless." The Queen gestured at the wolves. "They don't even respond to commands." "Maybe they just don't want to follow commands from people who hurt them," Tae-Yang replied. One of the council inspectors stepped forward. Your Majesty, our investigation has found serious violations of sentient being rights. These creatures show clear signs of intelligence, problem-solving ability, and emotional awareness. The practice of causing them constant pain is classified as torture under galactic law. They are genetically engineered property. The Queen shouted. They have no rights. That will be for the full council to decide, the inspector replied. But our preliminary recommendation is that the Void Wolf program be shut down and all remaining wolves be placed in rehabilitation. The Queen turned her burning gaze on ThSci-Fi. This is your fault. You've cost my empire billions of credits and made me look weak. When I defeat you in the trial of dominance, I will make sure you suffer. The trial is in 2 days, ThSci-Fi said calmly, even though his heart was beating fast. I'll be ready. After the Queen left, Hyunsu approached ThSci-Fi nervously. I want to help you, he said quietly. I know how the Queen fights. She doesn't follow rules even in formal trials. She'll bring every advantage she can. Why are you telling me this? ThSci-Fi asked. She's your queen. She's a cruel leader who values power over honor, Hyunsu replied. I can't serve someone like that anymore. When this is over, I'm leaving the Draconid military, but first I want to help you survive. That night in a borrowed room at the facility, ThSci-Fi sat with all 37 wolves around him. Kang was closest, his head resting on ThSci-Fi's lap. The other wolves were nearby, some sleeping, others watching him with those intelligent amber eyes. Jiwoo sat across from him, her face worried. Subin arrived from Earth today. She's a military tactical advisor. I asked her to help us prepare for the trial. A woman walked into the room dressed in practical clothes. Subin was older than ThSci-Fi. With gray in her hair and scars on her hands that showed she had been a soldier once, she looked at the wolves without fear. So you're the mechanic who started a war? Subin said with a slight smile. Jiwoo told me everything. The Queen is going to bring at least 50 warriors, all with advanced weapons and armor. I know, ThSci-Fi said. And you're planning to fight them with a pack of wolves who just met you a few days ago? They're not just wolves, ThSci-Fi replied. They're intelligent, they can work together, and they trust me. That has to count for something. Subin knelt down and looked him in the eyes. Trust is good. But you need strategy too. The Queen will expect you to hide behind the wolves while they fight for you. She'll target you directly to end the battle fast. So what do I do? You surprise her, Subin said. You don't hide behind them. You fight with them. You become part of the pack, not just their leader. Wolves work as a team because every member participates. Show her that humans and wolves together are stronger than anything she's ever seen. Over the next day, Subin taught ThSci-Fi basic survival tactics, how to move, how to stay aware of his surroundings, how to use the environment. It was not about making him a warrior. It was about making him a good pack member. The wolves seemed to understand they were preparing for something important. They practiced coordinating with each other, responding to ThSci-Fi's movements rather than his commands. Kang took a leadership role among the wolves, organizing them into groups. They're learning combat tactics, Jiwoo said in amazement. Look, they're dividing into flanking teams. This is sophisticated behavior. Hyunsu provided information about Draconid fighting styles and the weapons the Queen would likely use. The morning of the trial of dominance arrived cold and gray. The station's massive arena had been prepared for combat, with thousands of aliens gathering to watch. This was not just a fight anymore. It had become a symbol of something bigger, and everyone wanted to see what would happen. ThSci-Fi stood in the preparation chamber with his pack of 37 wolves. He wore simple protective gear that Subin had given him, nothing fancy or high-tech. Just basic armor that would let him move freely. His tool bag was strapped to his side because that was what he knew best. Remember the plan, Subin said, checking his equipment one last time. Stay mobile. Trust the pack. Don't try to be a hero. You're strongest when you work together. Jiwoo hugged him tightly. Please be careful. The Queen plays dirty. Everyone knows it, but the trial rules are old and don't cover modern weapons. I know, ThSci-Fi said, but we have something she doesn't. What's that? He looked at the wolves around him, especially Kang, who stood tall and ready. We have each other. The doors opened and they walked into the arena. The crowd noise was overwhelming. Aliens from dozens of species filled the stands, all watching as the human mechanic and his wolf pack entered the fighting space. The arena was huge, designed for large-scale combat. It had obstacles like walls and barriers, elevated platforms and open spaces. Tae-yang saw immediately that Subin's training would be important. This was not just about strength. It was about tactics. Across the arena, the opposite doors opened. Queen Velrisa walked out, wearing ceremonial armor that gleamed in the lights. Behind her came 50 Draconid warriors, all in full combat gear with energy weapons ready. They moved in perfect formation, disciplined and dangerous. But that was not all. Behind the warriors came combat drones, 12 of them, floating in the air with weapons pointed down. The queen had brought everything she could. The station administrator's voice echoed through the arena. This is a formal trial of dominance recognized under ancient galactic law. Both sides have agreed to the terms. Combat continues until one side surrenders or cannot continue fighting. The winner takes ownership of the contested property. Are both sides ready? Ready! The queen called out, her voice strong and confident. Tae-yang took a deep breath. Ready? Then let the trial begin. The queen's warriors moved immediately, spreading out in a practiced attack formation. The drones rose higher, getting into position for aerial strikes. This was a military force with training and experience. But Tae-yang was not trying to command an army. He was running with a pack. Go! He shouted, and the wolves burst into motion. What happened next shocked everyone watching. The wolves did not charge straight at the enemy like mindless beasts. They split into groups, moving with purpose and intelligence. Some ran for cover behind barriers. Others circled to the sides. They were using tactics. Kang stayed right beside Tae-yang as they ran toward a cluster of obstacles. Energy blasts from the Draconid weapons hit the ground around them, but the wolves were fast and unpredictable. Target the human, the queen commanded. And this quickly. 6 warriors broke formation and charged directly at Tae-yang, but they had to go through the wolves first. 3 wolves intercepted them, not attacking directly but herding the warriors toward a narrow passage between barriers. The warriors found themselves bunched together, unable to use their weapons effectively. Other wolves came from different directions, forcing the Draconid soldiers to split their attention. Tae-yang watched it happen with amazement. The wolves were thinking, planning, coordinating. They remembered everything from their military training, but now they were choosing how to use it. One warrior got through and raised his energy rifle at Tae-yang. Before he could fire, Kang hit him from the side like a truck. The warrior went flying, his armor protecting him but his weapon skittering away. Stay together. Tae-yang called to his pack and they responded instantly. The wolves that had scattered regrouped, moving as units but staying connected to the whole pack. The queen was watching with growing frustration. Her warriors were well trained, but they fought like individuals following orders. The wolves fought like a single organism with many parts. Use the drones, she commanded. The combat drones dove down, firing stunning energy beams at the wolves. One wolf got hit and fell, unconscious but alive. Then another. The drones were working, picking off targets from above where the wolves could not reach them. Tae-yang felt panic rising. They could not fight flying enemies. But then he noticed something. One of the wolves, the black and white one from the facility, was watching the drones carefully. She was learning their pattern, timing their movements. When the next drone came low for a shot, the wolf jumped at exactly the right moment, hitting it mid-air. The drone crashed to the ground and other wolves quickly destroyed it. Yes, Tae-yang shouted. Watch and learn. Work together! The wolves began coordinating their jumps. When one drew a drone's attention, others would position themselves for an attack. Within minutes, 5 drones were down. The queen's aerial advantage was disappearing, but the Draconid warriors were advancing, using their superior weapons and armor to push forward. Energy blasts hit several wolves, stunning them. The pack was taking casualties. Tae-yang ran to one of the fallen wolves, checking if it was okay. The wolf was breathing but unconscious. He felt anger building inside him. These creatures trusted him and they were getting hurt. Defensive circle, he called out, remembering something Subin had taught him. The wolves immediately formed a protective ring around him and the fallen pack members. It was a classic wolf tactic, protecting the vulnerable. The queen laughed, her voice amplified across the arena. You cannot win by defending. Eventually you will fall. She was right. They could not just protect. They needed to act. Tae-yang looked at Kang. We need to reach the queen. If she surrenders, her warriors have to stop. Kang's eyes gleamed with understanding. He made a series of sounds to the other wolves. complex communication that Yang was starting to recognize. The pack responded immediately. Half the wolves broke from the defensive circle and charged at the Draconid lines, not to fight but to distract. They ran between warriors, forcing them to turn and track multiple targets. It was chaos, but controlled chaos. Meanwhile, Kang led Yang and the remaining wolves on a flanking path, using the arena obstacles for cover. They moved fast and low, staying out of sight. The queen realized what was happening too late. By the time her warriors tried to reposition, Yang and his group were already behind her defensive line. "Protect the queen," a warrior commander shouted. 20 warriors turned to face the new threat, creating a wall between Yang and Queen Velrisa. The queen herself backed up, her face showing surprise but also something else. Fear. This was not how it was supposed to go. She had superior numbers, superior weapons, and superior training, but the human and his wolves were winning anyway. "Enough of this," the queen snarled. She pulled out a small device from her armor. "I wanted to do this fairly, but you leave me no choice." Yang saw what she was holding. It was a control transmitter designed to send signals to the wolves' implants. "Those implants belong to the Draconid Empire," the queen said, "and I can activate them remotely. Every wolf here will shut down with one press." She was going to cheat. She was going to use the old implants to disable the wolves, even though Yang had repaired them. The crowd in the stands began booing, angry at this dishonorable tactic. But the queen did not care about honor. She pressed the button. Nothing happened. The wolves kept standing, kept watching, kept protecting Yang. Not a single one fell or even flinched. The queen pressed the button again and again, her face showing confusion and then rage. "Impossible. The remote shutdown is built into every implant." Yang felt relief wash over him. "I rebuilt the implants," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I removed all the remote control features. The wolves aren't slaves anymore. They choose to be here." The crowd erupted in cheers. Even some of the Draconid warriors looked impressed. Their queen had just been caught trying to cheat in a formal trial, and it had failed. Queen Velrisa's face twisted with pure hatred. "Kill them all!" she screamed at her warriors. "I don't care about the trial. I want that human dead." But something unexpected happened. The warrior commander who had been leading the Draconid forces stepped forward and placed his weapon on the ground. "No, Your Majesty," he said quietly. "You have violated the honor of the trial. I will not follow orders to murder for your pride." One by one, other Draconid warriors began laying down their weapons. Not all of them, but enough. They had seen their queen try to cheat, seen her lose control, seen her order them to break sacred laws. The queen looked around at her crumbling forces, at the wolves standing ready, at Yang watching her with calm eyes. She had lost, and everyone knew it. But she was not ready to admit defeat. With a roar of rage, she grabbed a fallen warrior's energy rifle and aimed it directly at Yang. 37 wolves moved at once. They did not attack the queen. They simply formed a wall of fur and muscle between her and Yang, protecting him with their own bodies. Kang stood at the front, the biggest and strongest. His amber eyes locked on the queen. The message was clear. To hurt Yang, she would have to go through all of them. 6 months had passed since the trial that shocked the galaxy. Station Arcturus 7 looked different now. Where there had once been only cold metal corridors and sterile environments, there were now green spaces specifically designed for the wolves. The station administrators quickly learned that having happy wolves meant having a safer station, because the wolves naturally patrolled and protected their home. Yang's small maintenance workshop had grown into something much bigger. The sign above the door now read, Sanctuary Rehabilitation Center, in 12 different galactic languages. Inside, the space had been expanded to include medical equipment, comfortable rest areas, and plenty of room for animals of all sizes. Another transport just arrived. Jiwoo called out from her office area. She was now the chief xenobiologist of the facility, studying not just wolves but dozens of other species that were being brought to them. 3 more bioengineered creatures from the Centauri colonies. They say the creatures are violent and uncontrollable. Yang looked up from the mechanical bird he was repairing. The creature, a messenger drone that had developed consciousness, chirped happily as he fixed its damaged wing joint. "Send them to examination room 2. I'll be there in a few minutes." Kang, who was lying nearby as always, raised his massive head. The wolf had become famous across the galaxy. News stations had done stories about him. Children's toys were made in his image, and several universities wanted to study his bond with Tai Yang. But Kang seemed unbothered by fame. He was content to stay close to his human friend. The other wolves had made different choices after being freed. 17 had chosen to stay on the station, forming a pack that worked with station security. They were not guards in the traditional sense, but their presence made everyone feel safer. Criminals who came to the station quickly learned that the wolves could sense hostile intent, and they were very good at finding hidden weapons. 12. Wolves had left to explore the galaxy, traveling on ships whose captains were honored to have them aboard. They sent messages back occasionally, sharing their adventures. One wolf had even bonded with a Centauri trader and was learning to help with navigation. 8 wolves, including several who had been most damaged by their time in the Draconid program, stayed close to the sanctuary. They were still healing, still learning to trust. Tai Yang spent extra time with them, never pushing, just being patient. In the examination room, Tai Yang found 3 large creatures that looked like a cross between lions and lizards. They were in containment fields, snarling and trying to break free. Their handlers, a group of nervous Centauri officials, stood well back. They were created as security animals, one official explained. But they attack everyone, even their trainers. We were told to euthanize them, but we heard about your facility. Can you help? Tai Yang studied the creatures carefully. He saw the same signs he had seen in Kang and the other wolves. The animals had implants, and those implants were causing pain. But he also saw something else. These creatures were terrified, not truly violent. They lashed out because they were scared and hurting. Yes, I can help, Tai Yang said. But it will take time. And you'll need to understand that once they're healed, they might not want to go back to being security animals. The officials looked at each other nervously. We paid a lot of credits for them. Then you paid for living beings, not machines, Tai Yang replied firmly. If you want my help, you agree that they have the right to choose their own futures. After some discussion, the officials agreed. They had heard the stories about Tai Yang and his wolves. They knew he did not compromise on this issue. Over the next weeks, Tai Yang worked with the 3 creatures. Their names were difficult to pronounce in any human language, so he started, calling them Hwan, Dal, and Bom after Korean words for bright moon and spring. They seemed to like the names. Just as with the wolves, once the implants were fixed and the pain stopped, the creatures' true personalities emerged. Hwan was curious and playful. Dal was cautious but intelligent. Bom was gentle despite her size. They were not weapons at all. They were individuals. Word of the sanctuary's success spread quickly. More and more bioengineered creatures were brought to Arcturus 7. Some came from military programs being shut down after the galactic laws changed. Others came from private owners who realized they could not control their animals and wanted to avoid legal trouble. Each one arrived scared, angry, or broken. Each one left healed, if not always fully recovered. Some stayed at the sanctuary. Some found new homes with beings who truly cared for them. A few even returned to their original purposes, but only because they chose to, working alongside partners who treated them with respect. The Galactic Council had passed the Sentient Bioengineering Rights Act 3 months after the trial. It established that any creature showing signs of intelligence, emotion, or self-awareness had basic rights. They could not be tortured, could not be killed without just cause, and had the right to refuse commands that caused them harm. The law had been controversial. Many species argued that it would destroy their military programs or their industries, but public opinion had shifted. Videos of Tai Yang and his wolves had been watched billions of times. People across the galaxy saw what was possible when beings were treated with dignity. Queen Velrisa had become almost invisible after the trial. The Draconid Empire had not fallen, but her personal power had been destroyed. Younger Draconids, inspired by beings like Hyunsu who had defected, were pushing for reforms. The cruel old ways were slowly dying. Hyunsu himself now worked at the sanctuary. He had a natural talent for understanding animal behavior, and without the pressure of serving the queen, he had become an excellent rehabilitation specialist. He was especially good with creatures that had been badly traumatized. "Taeyang, you have a visitor," Yunsu called from the entrance. "It's important." Taeyang walked to the front of the sanctuary and stopped in surprise. Standing there, wearing simple clothing instead of royal robes, was Queen Velrisa. She looked older than he remembered. The proud bearing was gone, replaced with something that might have been humility. 2 guards stood behind her, but they did not look threatening. "What do you want?" Taeyang asked carefully. "To talk," the queen said. Her voice was quiet, lacking the commanding tone she once used. "May I come in?" Taeyang nodded and led her to a private room. Kang followed, his eyes never leaving the queen. The wolf remembered her, and he was ready to protect Taeyang if needed. The queen sat down, and for a long moment, she just looked at her hands. "I came to apologize," she finally said. Taeyang had not expected that. "For what specifically? Trying to kill me? Torturing the wolves? Cheating in the trial?" "For all of it," she replied. "And for something worse. I came to apologize for my pride. I built my entire reign on the belief that power and control were the same as leadership. I was wrong." She looked up at Kang, who was watching her suspiciously. "That creature should have hated me. I caused it pain for years, but it did not seek revenge. It only wanted to be free and to stay with someone who showed it kindness. That taught me something I should have learned long ago." "What's that?" Taeyang asked. "That strength without compassion is just cruelty," the queen said. "And that true loyalty cannot be programmed or forced. It must be earned." Taeyang studied her face, trying to see if this was some kind of trick, but he saw genuine regret in her eyes. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because the Draconid Empire still has bioengineering programs," the queen replied. "Not military ones anymore, but research and development. We are trying to do things differently now, treating the creatures as partners instead of tools. But we do not know how. We need someone to teach us." "You want me to come to your empire?" Taeyang said, surprised. "I want you to help us be better," the queen said. "I have no power to command you. I can only ask. The new Draconid Council has agreed to pay for your services and to follow your guidelines completely. We want to learn the human way of doing things." Taeyang was quiet for a long time, thinking. Part of him wanted to refuse. This being had tried to kill him and his wolves. She had caused so much suffering. But another part of him, the part that became a mechanic because he liked fixing broken things, saw an opportunity. "I'll do it," he said finally, "but on my conditions. Any creature I find being mistreated gets freed immediately. Any program I think is cruel gets shut down. And you will personally work alongside me, learning how to treat these beings with respect." The queen's eyes widened slightly. "You want me to work for you?" "I want you to understand," Taeyang corrected. "You can't change from a distance. You need to see these creatures as individuals, care for them, feel what they feel. Only then will you really learn." After a moment, the queen nodded. "I accept your conditions." Over the following months, Queen Velrisa kept her word. She came to the sanctuary regularly, working alongside Taeyang and Hyun-Soo. At first she was awkward and uncomfortable, clearly unused to physical work or direct contact with animals, but slowly, she began to change. Taeyang watched as she carefully cleaned a wounded creature's injuries, her hands gentle despite their claws. He saw her smile when a frightened animal finally accepted food from her hand. He heard her laugh when a playful young wolf knocked her over with affection.